Dear students, today the topic of our lesson is some basic concept of statistics. In these basic concepts, I am starting from variable and constant. What is variable? We have learned in our lower classes. Those values which can be changed according to time, place, or a person are called variables, but those values which cannot be changed according to time, place, or person are called constant. Here, the definition of variable is that any observed characteristic which attains different values by changing in person, place, or time is called variable. For example, religion of Pakistani citizens, sex of newly born babies, and monthly prices of a petrol. So we can say that as the religion of Pakistan citizens is a different in different localities. Similarly, the sex of newly baby born will be maybe a baby or a baba or a boy or a girl. And as you know that the monthly prices of a petrol are changes day by day. But what is constant? Any observed characteristics which attains same values by changing in person, place, or time is called a constant. For example, sum of the angles of a triangle. As we have learned many times, there is no change in the sum of angles of a triangle. As you know that the sum of angles of a triangle is equal to 180 and will remain 180 forever. And an individual observation of your weight today. If someone would like to weigh up himself or herself, at that day its weight will not be changed. It may be changed after some days, but not that day. Per capita income of Pakistan in 2019. In a particular year, the income of Pakistan will remain constant. However, it will be changed in next year or some other years, but at that year it will be remain same. So we can say that variable is that quantity which can be changed according to time, person, or place, but constant is that quantity which cannot be changed according to person, place, or time. Now we are discussing about types of variables. How many types of variables? There are two types of variables. First is that quantitative variable and second is that qualitative variable. What is quantitative variable? A variable which contains numerical value is called a quantitative variable. For example, monthly petrol price, number of courses offered by different universities of Punjab, number of districts of different provinces of Pakistan, etc. We can say that those variables which are associated with a numerical value or with a numerical or numbering value are called a quantitative variable. Now we are discussing about qualitative variable. What is qualitative variable? A variable which does not attain a numerical value is called a qualitative variable, or a variable which attains non-numerical value is called a qualitative variable. For example, religion of a citizen of Pakistan, title of a courses offered by the different business schools of a Punjab, last qualification of a member of your family, etc. We can say in a simple words, those variables which are associated in a numerical value or those variables which are measured in a numbers are called a quantitative variable, but those variables which do not have a numerical value or not associated with the numerical values are called a qualitative variable. Further, a variable can be described in two types: discrete and continuous variable. What is discrete variable and what is continuous variable? Discrete variable, a quantitative variable which is free from any kind of unit of measurement like kilogram, gram, liter, milliliter, feet, inch, kilometer, meter, degree, etc. is called a discrete variable. But the variable which is expressed in any kind of unit of measurement is called a continuous variable. For example, kilogram, milligram, liter, milliliter, feet, inch, kilometer, meter, degree, etc. What is the difference between two variables? First is that discrete variable is that variable which is expressed without of any measurement, which is expressed without of any unit of measurement like kilogram, gram, meter, kilometer, feet, inch, etc. But the continuous variable is that variable which is expressed in these units of measurements like kilogram, gram, milligram, liter, milliliter, degree, inch, feet, etc. Now we are discussing about the characteristics of a discrete variable and continuous variable. Discrete variable, its first characteristic is that it could be finite or countable in finite number of values. What is the meaning of finite or countable? The meaning of finite is that those values which can be easily counted are called a finite. So its first characteristic is that its value be finite or countable in finite number of values. But in continuous variable, it could be assumed in a finite number of values. In finite number of values means those values which cannot be counted, uncountable. So first difference is that in discrete variable values will be finite or countable and finite, but in continuous variable values will be infinite. And second characteristic is that it assumes values with standard gap. In discrete variable values are put up in a standard gap, but in continuous variable values are not put up in a standard gap. However, it could assume any value within given range. Range may be different at different stages, but when we are discussing about a standard gap, then gap will be remain constant for all the values. So the difference between the discrete and continuous variable is that it assumes values with standard gap, but in continuous variable values are put up within given range, not a standard gap. So there are two differences of both variables characteristics. First was that in discrete variable values were finite or countable and finite, but in continuous variable values are infinite or uncountable. And second was that in discrete variable values are put up in a standard gap, but in continuous variable values are not put up in a standard gap. However, they are put up in within given range. Now we are discussing about the examples of both variables. What are the examples of discrete variable and what are the examples of continuous variable? The examples of discrete variables are that number of members of a family or family size. Second number is that number of a female employees in a government department. And third is number of typing error per page of book. And what are the examples of continuous variable? Weight of a newly born babies noted in a pounds, height of a different building blocks of your college, and speeds of cars moving on motorway on Independence Day. These are the examples by which both variables can be differentiated easily. In discrete variables, you are finding not a required numerical values, but in continuous variables you are finding a numerical values, because when I am discussing about number of members of a family or family size, but not describing in a actual number, but weight of a newly born babies noted in a pounds, definitely it required some numerical value. Similarly, numbers of female employees in government department, it not a fixed number, only it is saying that number of female employees, but height of a different building blocks of your college. Here height is measured in a meter, kilometer, etc. And similarly, number of typing error per page of book, not actual numbering is mentioning here, but speeds of car moving on a motorway on Independence Day. So definitely when car is running on a motorway or on a road, its speed is mentioned at any stage at each step. Now, dear students, I am saying to you that if you have any question or query about today lesson, we have discussed in brief that what is variable, what is constant, what is qualitative variable, what is quantitative variable, and how can quantitative variable further be divided into discrete variable or a continuous variable. If you have any query, any question, you can ask from me. It is my advice to you, first of all, go through your books and study of the lesson of the today. And if you have any query, any question in your mind, or you have any confusion, then you can ask from me. I will give you answer on my WhatsApp number at any time, inshallah. Dear students, here I would like to say thanks to all for your attention. But some students are not attending our class frequently. So I would like to say all those students who are not still joined our class, they will have to attend our class as soon as possible, and you will have to ask your friends that our business stat has our business stat class has been started, and they will join as soon as possible.